And we're back. Welcome to episode 39 of the Horror Guys, where every week we talk about movies, horror movies. And this week we have the Universal Studios Climax, The Climax.
The Climax. Not to be confused with the one from a few weeks ago at the Dancers.
That's right. This one is The Climax from 1944. Mm-hmm. Return of the Blind Dead from 1973. Taking of Deborah Logan from 2014. Mm-hmm. And our international feature, which was...
The Tombs of the Blind Dead.
The Tombs of the Blind Dead.
Okay.
Return of the Blind Dead.
The one you missed there was The Hammer, Brides of Dracula.
Yes.
1960.
It's hard to memorize 4 movies in their years. And,
especially when we spent like 8 hours watching them.
So much data. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, those are the 4 movies.
Well, we should watch those movies. Are you hungry?
I am.
Can't watch movies without a snack. What do we got this week?
We have Haribo Sour Streamers.
Already tore the bag up.
Yeah, because he wanted less crackling on camera. Kids and grown-ups love it so. The happy world of Haribo. Gummy candy.
Joe?
Oh, yes. Colorful.
Kind of looks like, gumdrops that have been hit by a steamroller.
Yeah, run them through a press, and there you go. This one's sour apple, I think. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Mm-hmm.
It's like gummy roadkill.
Mm-hmm. Comes in 4 different flavors. 4 strips of each flavor. I give it a thumbs up.
Yep, that's sour apple.
They're sour and sweet and yummy.
Sour apple.
Mm-hmm. That's Haribo.
It's horrible?
Haribo.
Oh, Haribo.
Yes. Yeah. They're not a sponsor, but we'll have an affiliate link to where you can get some of those for yourself. And you should. They're really good.
They are well known for gummy fish, gummy bears, all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Over in Japan, they literally have squid in a bag.
Gummy squids?
No, real squids. They're like dried.
Ew.
Get them at the dollar store. The 100 yen shop.
Ew. So,
movies.
We saw The Climax, eh?
We did.
From 1944. Boris Karloff.
Yeah, this is not about dancers on LSD. That was that was just Climax. This is The Climax.
His first color movie.
It was. They've been doing some color movies since, Phantom of the Opera and stuff, but this was
Boris
Karloff's
first. Yeah.
So from 1944, directed by George Wagner, written by Kurt Siodmak and Lynn Starling, stars Boris Karloff, Susanna Foster, and Turhan Bey. So they recycled Turhan Bey from some of the Mummy movies, they recycled Susanna Foster from the Phantom of the Opera, and they recycled Boris Karloff from pretty much everything else.
And Turhan Bey was only like 22 in this one. I didn't realize he was so young.
Well, he
was
old.
A young feller.
The only other thing I could tell you, he was in that one episode of Babylon 5.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was old then.
Well,
Hour and 26 minutes. Okay, so, did you like it?
Sorta.
I would, yeah, that's a good answer, yeah.
It was like a tamer, less dark Phantom of the Opera.
Kinda. I think they wanted it to be like another Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, it was filmed on the same sets. This is a year after the remake, the Claude Rains Phantom of the Opera, and they spent a fortune on that stage and the costumes and the opera stuff, and they wanted to drag it out for a couple of movies, get their money's worth.
They did.
They did.
Same sets. Same
and about
big
the
theater.
First 45
same
minutes.
Leading lady.
Same leading lady, yeah.
So, very reminiscent of Phantom of the Opera.
Very, yeah.
And she's an opera singer.
Amazing. Yeah, in the first 45 minutes, it feels like almost word for word the kind of situation plot of the Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
There's this singer who's coming up, and this guy off to the side, he's in love with her, and he's boosting up her career, and she's going to take over the play. But there's this other leading lady who's jealous, and he says, no. Yeah, it's similar.
He's helping conspire to bring her up and knock the current leading lady down.
And it does diverge, but yeah, it starts out looking very similar.
Some real similarities there, yeah.
Dr. Honer, the theater physician. You used to be in community theater. Did you ever have a theater physician?
We never did, no. Not a big enough budget.
Nobody ever died, did they?
No.
Yeah.
No, didn't need a doctor.
See, this theater has a physician, and people do die.
Well, things came up sometimes where we needed a doctor, but no, there was not one on duty. No.
The theater physician arrives that evening in the theater in Vienna, and the man in front says he's a little crazy since his wife disappeared 10 years ago.
And by the way, this is the most British Vienna I've ever seen. It took me a while to even realize it, but yeah, it's the Royal Vienna Theater in Austria.
Which seems irrelevant until the king shows up.
And it's like a 12-year-old boy. Like,
Yeah.
what? And
when was the King of England?
King of England, and it's not. It's some Austrian royalty thing.
Yeah.
Or Hungarian, and they just call him the king. They don't name him. And we couldn't quite figure out whether that was historically really a person or they just made it up completely for the movie, kind of
Google
fudged
helps.
it. Google helps, but yeah.
Yeah, in everything other than the 12-year-old king, this was British. It's completely British.
Yeah.
They just pretend it's Vienna.
Yeah.
Almost immediately, we get a flashback. Marceline gets a message saying she is commanded to sing for the king. She dumps Friedrich Hohner since he wants her to leave her career. Again, choose your career. Choose the baby making.
Yeah, he can't have
He wants
both.
her all for himself. She'd be a fool to give up her career for him, though.
This is the Boris Karloff who is obsessed with the singer. Yeah, not her singing, but herself.
Yeah.
She
says, I don't love you, I hate you. So he strangles her.
Mm-hmm.
We'll always be together now, he says, and the flashback ends. Count Seabrook, the opera manager, tells him he needs to put the tragedy behind him. It's been 10 years. Pull yourself together.
And the woman has vanished as far as... And nobody knows he did it.
A strange, mysterious disappearance.
Yeah.
No one knows what happened.
She vanished. Don't know where she went. Mm-hmm.
So then Hohner hears Angela Klatt singing. She and her...
same song.
The same song, the same voice.
How dare she? It's her voice.
She and her fiancé Franz are here to study music. Seabrook overhears them and explains that Angela's voice sounds just like the disappeared Marcelina.
Mm-hmm.
Seabrook then gives her a place in the show. There's a long musical number while Franz and Dr. Hohner both watch Angela adoringly.
It is well done, though. Big costumes, elaborate set. Yeah.
It's fine.
It's a little long, yeah.
On her way out, Hohner introduces himself, and he says he wants to examine her throat. They go to his office, and she meets Louise, his grumpy and creepy servant. This is like Wicked Witch of the West without makeup. She is kind of scary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He offers to let her use Marceline's pearls when they let Angela star in the remake of the play that Marceline was going to be doing. She's obviously creeped out by this old guy, but she goes along with the routine examination. Meanwhile, he hypnotizes her.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to sing again, ever, he tells her. You will never try to sing again.
You are mine, you are in my power, you will do as I say. That sort of thing.
Yeah. She obeys, and he sends her home with an atomizer to hold in her hands all the time to keep her reminded of the power that he's got over her.
Yeah, she must always keep that near.
Yeah. And as she leaves, Louise watches on. Looks like she knows he did something inappropriate, but she's not going to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
After she leaves, Hohner still hears her screeching that damn tune in his head. He really is insane.
Yeah, he's
she leaves and he's like still hearing this opera.
Yeah.
Oh!
He does crazy really well in this one, I think. Yeah.
Well, if I had to hear that song much longer.
It wasn't that bad. But...
Franz asks Angela where she's been, and she doesn't remember. Not long after, they show up at a rehearsal for the new show. Things go badly for Angela. She just can't sing anymore. The theater gives the lead to Jarmila, the old soprano. And she wouldn't like being called the old soprano.
But she is.
Not only that, but Hohner insists that Angela come live with him, and she goes right along with it.
Because she needs rest.
Yeah.
Uninterrupted rest and recuperation. So come stay with me for 3 days, a few days. Yeah.
As long as it takes. You good.
As long as it takes, yeah.
Franz comes to visit.
Not at all creepy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Franz comes to visit while Hohner is out, and Louise lets him in, and she seems to be on his side in all this. Franz has the liquid in the atomizer analyzed, and it's just plain old water.
Yeah, he suspects that maybe there's some kind of poison or something that was
chemical,
affecting her, but
mind-affecting.
It's not that.
No.
Yeah.
Franz goes to see his uncle's friend, the king. The king orders a command performance for Angela to sing for him. They figure if they force her, give her this opportunity she can't refuse to go sing for the king, that'll snap her out of it.
Well, and part of it, too, he thinks that it's her confidence is gone, and so he really plays up the praise that everybody thinks she's the greatest, and the king thinks you're so good that he wants to hear you sing, and that's how good you are. You really need to sing, and
you're the best.
Yeah.
As they prepare for the performance, Franz accidentally breaks the atomizer. She gets her confidence back instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Louise comes into the dressing room and talks to Angela. She really does want to help. She's not a bad person.
Nope.
Honer comes in and grabs her, returning home. Louise confronts him and he starts to kill her, but Frank and Uncle Carl burst in and rescue her just in time. Carl holds Honer at gunpoint in his office, while Angela comes up on stage and sings perfectly. Honer whacks Carl over the head and runs out. He hides in the vault where Marceline's dead body is hidden. He's got this secret room with this thick door.
Yeah, that he bolts from the inside when he wants to visit the dead girl that he has been keeping for 10 years.
And of course the police chase up the steps because they know what he's done. Mm-hmm. And they can't get in because he's locked the door. But he's clumsy, locks over a lantern, can't get out, and burns to death. The end.
Mm-hmm.
That wrapped up quickly.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Hypnosis, a tool of the Me Too movement since 1944. Did you believe this? Did you believe it?
Hypnosis is really a trope in movies that's used heavily. Yeah, to make people do things they
bark like a chicken.
Yeah.
Kill for me.
No, not so much.
There's not enough singing to make this a musical. There's not enough scary stuff to make this a horror film. What is it? A mess. This was Karloff's first movie in color. Much of it was filmed on the same stage as Phantom of the Opera from the previous year. Universal paid a lot of money for the set and wanted to use it again. The same could be said for Susanna Foster, who was the leading lady in both films, singing and all.
Mm-hmm.
The plot, at least in the beginning, feels a lot like they were trying to make a second Phantom movie. Just like that movie, there is a lot of singing in this one. The plot diverges when the hypnosis angle comes in, but it was going there. The sets and costumes are impressive. Like Phantom, the cast is huge and the musical numbers are quite good. The acting is very good as well. The pacing in this film is awful. It feels really long. Several of the scenes feel dragged out, such as the musical numbers and the hypnotizing scene. It takes like 10 minutes of sparkly lights to hypnotize her.
Mm-hmm.
The
filler.
plot is...
Well, it's not a lot of a story, and they needed filler. Yeah.
Filler, you say. The plot is very weak, as well as relying completely on the power of hypnosis, which is a stretch nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to call this 3 or 4.
A 4.
Yeah.
A 4. It looked good. They were very well dressed in this. Yeah. Very, very snappy dressers.
It was a well-made movie that just bored the crap out of me.
No, I wasn't bored, but wasn't entertained either. I was just kind of watching.
And it was kind of long.
Watching the pretty people in their beautiful costumes and the beautiful sets.
Yeah. Well, we talk about, this was 1 hour and 26 minutes, and it was like one of the longest Universal movies so far. It felt
could have been an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really milked out 25 minutes easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a thumbs down from me.
Yeah, overall. Yeah.
Let's see if we can go 4 for 4 on the thumbs down this week.
Wouldn't give it a recommendation. Well,
which takes us to our Hammer classic, Brides of Dracula from 1960.
Which does not have Dracula.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. Yeah, there's no Dracula in Brides of Dracula.
So
only the brides.
Off the top, did you like it?
Overall, yes.
Overall?
Yes. It had weak points.
I'm very middle of the road on this one.
I liked it more than disliked it. So I'll give you that.
Okay, I'm really neutral on this one.
Mm-hmm. I'm slightly above neutral.
Directed by Terrence Fisher, who directed all of these Hammer things so far. Written by Jimmy Sangster and Peter Bryan. Stars Peter Cushing, Morticia Hunt, and Yvonne Monlauer.
Peter Cushing is still up to it as Van Helsing. He's cleaning up the mess after he killed Dracula. Now he's kind of just traveling the countryside looking for...
This is clearly a sequel to Dracula.
Yeah, looking for
Dracula
nests
1958.
looking for lingering vampires. And
Hour and 25.
Uh-huh.
Dracula is still dead, but his disciples live on. A wagon with a single passenger, a young woman, heads into town, but a man hops on the back for a ride.
And what a bumpy! The carriage driver is afraid of going slow because it's scary country and there's
vampire territory.
Yeah, and just the roughest, most awful road, and he's going hellbound with horse-drawn carriage. And she's in the back, just like literally, that poor gal.
Doing the frog in the blender imitation back there.
Yeah.
After they arrive in town, the man gets off the back of the cab and pays the driver to go away. We don't know why yet.
Mm-hmm.
The man enters the pub and everyone is silent. Even the music stops. Do we know who he is? Do we ever see this guy again?
Yes, we do know who he is, don't we?
Who? He's not the Count.
He's not the Count. Who was he? Well,
he's some guy.
How embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this guy pays the carriage to leave the girl in town, and then he dies or vanishes or disappears or puffs into smoke. We never see him again. Because everybody in the pub goes silent when he walks in. I assumed that this was the vampire. It's not. It's just
not.
some guy.
Now that you mention it, yeah.
The coachman leaves without her. That's why he was paid. The villagers really don't want her to spend the night, even at the inn. An old woman comes in on her carriage and asks for wine. She's the Baroness Meister, and she invites Marianne to stay with her in her home that night. How nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Marianne is shown to her. Suddenly they come up to the innkeeper say, "Oh, we'll find a room for you now."
Yeah.
Don't go with her.
Don't go with the Baroness.
Marianne is shown to her room at the Baroness's house. It's a dark and stormy night in the house on the hill.
As often happens.
The Baroness explains about her son, who is ill. He's insane, she says.
Mm-hmm.
Later, that's why we know it wasn't the Count down on the hill. He's actually chained to the floor in his bedroom.
Yep.
Later that night, Marianne looks out the window and sees the son standing on a ledge beneath her. It looks like he's going to jump to his death. She runs down to see him, and she tells him she wants to help him. She finds him literally chained to the floor. Big old chains.
Mm-hmm.
He explains that his mother has told everyone that he is dead just to get his land and power. He is the rightful baron. He asks her to go get the key to the lock out of his mother's room.
And she does.
Marianne throws him the key and then gets dressed to run away with him. The Baroness corners Marianne and insists that she give back the key. "You don't know what you've done, you little fool." The Baroness waits at the bottom of the Baron.
Is that some awesome dialogue?
"You don't know what you've done, you fool."
Mm-hmm.
That should be my ringtone. The Baron waits at the bottom of the stairs, and his mother gets all bug-eyed when she sees him free.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
In trouble now.
The servant, Greta, freaks out and screams when she sees the Baroness free. Greta shows Marianne to the Baroness's corpse. She's dead, and he's free! Greta then monologues and cackles to herself maniacally for about 3,700 minutes about family history.
And she just kind of goes off the deep end.
Very long monologue.
Mm-hmm.
She knows he'll be back because she knows where his coffin is. And she pulls back the curtains, and there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, that's how you know he's going to be back.
He's like Dracula light.
This is the same as the Christopher Lee Dracula. Mostly the same rules. He's got to be back in his box of dirt by morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The next morning, Van Helsing just happens to drive by and find Marianne passed out in the woods. That's some lucky timing.
Yeah.
They go back to because he wasn't even involved before. This is the first we've seen him.
No, he just shows up, luckily. Yeah.
They go back to the pub and learn that a girl was killed last night. Van Helsing goes along with Marianne to the school where she was originally going to work in the first place. Van Helsing overhears the dead girl's father in the pub. She's already been buried. Everyone already knows she was killed by a vampire. No one needs convincing in this film. You know, it's like vampires aren't real. What are you talking about? Not in this one. They all believe it.
In this one, they all believe it, yeah.
There's a vampire right down the block. We know these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Van Helsing explains how the vampire cult grows, one after the other, turning in more and more people.
Slowly spreads, yeah.
That night, Van Helsing waits at the cemetery for the dead girl to rise. He finds Greta there, talking to the grave. Get up! Get up!
I know you
Push!
can do it.
Push!
It's like-
Urging the girl out of the grave.
And luckily, the girl's only buried like an inch deep. that was a face palm.
You see the coffin lid open up, and there's this
It's
much
literally-
dirt. It's literally right. They dug a hole deep enough to put the coffin in, and then
covered it. Yeah, and of course she gets out pretty easily.
Yeah, that's just too easy.
Mm-hmm.
And for somehow or another, there's an interruption, and Greta and the girl run off.
Mm-hmm.
Van Helsing goes up to the house on the hill, but the coffin has been moved. The Baroness is no longer dead, and the Baron comes in hissing. They quickly do battle, and the Baron gets away in a coach.
Yeah, the Baroness has turned. She's a vampire now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Baroness blames herself for not killing Meister when she had the chance.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, she actually protected him. This is all her fault.
Yeah.
The Baron announces that he and Marianne are going to be married, and Marianne looks up, and doesn't object. The Baron then eats Marianne's roommate.
Yes, you heard that right. He does.
Morning
Well,
comes.
just the blood.
Yeah,
just the
right.
juicy bits. Yeah.
Morning comes, and Van Helsing dispatches the old Baroness with a steak.
Mm-hmm.
A doctor in town mentions that another girl died up at the school last night. It's Marianne's roommate, Gina, and Van Helsing knows what's up. That night, the roommate's coffin opens up, and she comes after Marianne. Van Helsing interrupts the attack, but Gina runs away.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of running around.
Yeah, there was.
Van Helsing tracks the vampires to an old windmill, of course,
Mm-hmm.
where the Baron attacks Van Helsing as his two brides look on. The Baron leaves the job half finished and goes after Marianne. And this is the weak point of the entire movie.
Oh.
He beats up Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm.
He gets him up on a post. He bites him. He sucks his blood out. And then he lets go, lets him fall to the floor, and runs away.
He wants him to change. He wanted him to become a vampire.
It takes more than that.
Not in this movie.
He wasn't dead.
I don't think you have to be in this movie.
I thought it was weak. Every other vampire movie, you either drain them dry and kill them, drain them to a point and let them drink your blood, or, some other weird ritual. Just leaving them half dead on the floor doesn't do it.
Well, I didn't think it was weak until what Van Helsing does next.
Alrighty.
that was weak.
Van Helsing then gets up, burns the holes in his neck with a
He's got a torch.
It's a metal brand.
Yeah, and heats up
and then pours holy water on it, and the two little holes go away.
Yeah, the wound completely heals
vanishes.
up. Yeah, the burn that he just made, and because he burned out the vampirism by doing that. That was lame.
Burn the hunger away.
that I thought was weak. Yeah.
Van Helsing then throws holy water on the Baron, and the Baron kicks over the fire pit, setting the windmill on fire. And that sounds like it's all related. It's not. He throws the holy water on the vampire's face, and he's, ah! Mm-hmm. And then he starts to recover. He looks around, and he kicks over the fire pit inside the windmill where his two brides are upstairs, and he's locked in.
And his coffin is upstairs, too.
Yeah.
So
he sets his own place on fire on purpose.
He was mad. He wasn't thinking. Van Helsing pushed his buttons and got him to lose control.
Okay. So then the Baron, his house is on fire, his coffin's burning up, he's got to find somewhere to stay. Mm-hmm. So he runs out of the windmill, and just then the windmill turns, and you know what a windmill looks like.
It looks like a cross.
It stops in a cross position, and the light behind it, because of the burning windmill, makes a shadow of a cross on the ground, and the vampire gets pinned to the ground and
reacts poorly.
Yeah. And the fire in the windmill kills the two brides at the end.
Yeah.
We don't actually see him get killed. He just sort of lays there, and Van Helsing runs up to him.
Oh,
we don't know if he staked him or if the cross itself killed him.
Our assumption is that Van Helsing would have finished him off
if he wasn't. Yeah.
I think the cross just pinned him down. And
okay.
So it had issues, but overall I was entertained. It looked really good. I felt bad for the Baroness. I mean, she was she used to live a happy life, and then her son got infected with and she couldn't stand to kill him, but she had to keep him prisoner, and she was a prisoner herself.
Stupid fool comes to spend the night.
What have you done with? Some fool comes along and
okay.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Really
killed by the shadow of a building? That's pretty lame. The first dead girl's coffin was buried an inch beneath the surface, which is even lamer. She opened the lid, and it was level with the ground. Toward the end, the Baron has Van Helsing unconscious, and he bites him but doesn't kill him.
We
don't know
that.
why. I still don't believe it.
No, I think it's because he wanted to corrupt Van Helsing and make him a vampire, make him what he hated.
Yeah, well.
And I think that would be enough to do it. That's why Van Helsing did the burning on his neck kind of thing, which I guess works.
Skeptical.
Yeah. So remember, if you're ever bitten by a vampire and you think you've been infected, splash it with holy water.
After you burn it.
Yeah, after you brand it. Yeah.
It gives a very different feel when everyone in the movie knows about vampires and there's no one that needs convincing.
Yeah, it does.
Not all the characters know about vampires, but no one doubts Van Helsing. Van Helsing here is a lot like Sherlock Holmes. He knows what's going on. He knows everything. He doesn't always win the first time. He's got to do things. But no one doubts him. He's the genius. He's the brilliant man who goes in and cleans this stuff up. It's Sherlock Holmes with pointy teeth.
Kinda,
Since he's played Sherlock Holmes numerous times.
That, yeah.
Van Helsing explains that the bite marks are called the seal of Dracula, a term I've never heard before.
Yeah, I'd never had.
It's kind of cool, but I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
The acting is fine. The sets are good. The pacing is fine. Even the not Christopher Lee vampire is good.
See, that's why I kind of,
But the whole movie is just kind of nothing special. There's nothing terribly wrong. It's just very lackluster. Yep, it's a vampire movie.
And I heard that the original script had Dracula coming back. And as Christopher Lee coming back. He didn't want the role because he was afraid he'd be typecast. And I'd like to know what
they
changed.
said.
What the conversations were and what changed his mind later, because he plays Dracula 9 more times.
For Hammer, and many more times for other people.
Yeah,
there's lots of Christopher Lee Draculas.
Yeah. 1966 was the first of 9 more times after he turned this one down because he didn't want to be typecast as Dracula.
Well, you kind of got to look at like Bela Lugosi there. He was super famous. He was super popular as Dracula. It was the role, and he never really got away from it. He was always, these other characters that he played later on, they always talked like Dracula.
Yeah.
Because that was, I could see why he might not want to get typecast.
Worked out for him, okay.
But somebody convinced him.
Yeah.
Well, in a way, he almost always was a villain. Almost always.
Almost always,
so kind of typecast that way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's bad.
I
know that's not bad.
Made a career out of it. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of making a career out of something.
I didn't shave today.
I didn't either. Now I know why.
Uh-huh.
Our short film this week is called Close Shave from 2019. And there's not a lot of credits on this. It's by Flicks with Nick. And you can find it. We'll have a link to YouTube below. Well, this guy tries to teach himself to shave.
And his name's Nick. He's talking to himself in the mirror. Yeah.
He decides he's a little too old for his mother to keep doing it, but he's wrong. This is not how it's supposed to work, though. And I can't tell you more than that. Shaving gone wrong.
It's dark humor. It's
There's definitely almost as much comedy as horror, but it's definitely got its bad points.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good one.
I liked it.
We don't mean bad as in it's not good, but
yeah. I didn't even look at the time. It's like 3-4 minutes long. It's not much.
Yeah, just a few minutes. Yeah, but it's worth it.
It's short, well filmed, and it's one of my phobias. I've shaved with an electric razor since forever. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And this is why.
Beware of the safety razors.
Yeah. Don't shave with the... Which brings us up to our modern movie, The Taking of Deborah Logan, 2014.
And I went into this not knowing anything about it. I don't think I'd even seen a preview for it. So
It turns out that there's one scene late in the movie that I had seen somewhere on YouTube or somewhere, this is one of those scenes that stands out. But no, I didn't know much about this.
Yeah.
Directed by Adam Robitel, written by Adam Robitel and Gavin Heffernan, stars Jill Larson, Ann Ramsey, and Michelle Ang. 1 hour, 30 minutes. Link in the show notes for an Amazon purchase. You did like it? You didn't like it?
I liked it. 7. I give it a 7.
6.
Okay.
I didn't like it as much as you. I was entertained throughout, but it has some really dumb points.
Turn on the lights.
Yeah, that's
that
a
was
big
one of the
That's
points.
a big one. People run around halfway through half the movie
Yeah.
is done with flashlights in the dark, and the power never goes out. There's no reason they couldn't flip a switch.
One scene in particular at the house where she's freaking out and they're trying to find her with flashlights. It's night.
You turn the lights on.
The power is not out. There's switches right there on the wall.
And then it gets worse later on. They're in the hospital searching for somebody.
And they're down
with
in
flashlights.
the
In the hospital. Hospitals?
The power's not out in the hospital. And these weren't like, catacomb unused areas of the hospital.
They were not used. Basement of the hospital.
They were not being used at the moment, but there's light switches. Turn on the lights.
First of all, there was nothing wrong with the power in the hospital.
Two
Second
especially
of all, if there
notable
was, there's
scenes.
a generator.
Yeah. No, the lights were fine. They just didn't turn. Yeah, two especially notable scenes where turn on the lights.
Now, there was a scene at the end where they were going through like mine
caves.
Shafts.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That was forgivable.
And
in the woods, out in the garden at night and in the woods and stuff. But yeah, turn on the lights.
So, I mean, really, that was just dumb enough. That really pulled it down at least a whole point.
It was a little bit contrived to make it more dark and more suspenseful unnecessarily.
And I think this was kind of a wasted movie. This could have been so much better.
Mm.
We start out with Mia's documentary crew going to meet Alzheimer's patient Deborah Logan and her daughter Sarah. Deborah doesn't want to do the film, but if she wants to keep her house, they need the money the film crew has offered.
It must have been a heck of a grant that this medical student got to make this documentary.
Later on, the photographers want double money.
They spend lavishly.
Yeah,
she does.
It's an expensive documentary.
Yeah.
1 week later, the filming starts. We then get a documentary-style explanation of what Alzheimer's disease is and what it does.
So it's almost like a found footage kind of thing, but it's a making of documentary.
It's kind of a mix.
Yeah, it's a mix. Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't like Blair Witch where it was literally found later.
No, it's kind of a mixture of the documentary and it's I'm not going to say mess again, but it's a little of both.
No, not a mess.
We get doctor interviews and a voiceover of Deborah's medical history. There's a lot of Deborah and Sarah talking over each other. And that's it basically. You've seen medical documentaries before where you get to meet the patient and the doctors and the family.
She's got the beginnings of end-stage Alzheimer's. At the beginning, she's just starting to get very bad.
End of the early stage, because later on they hit mid-stage.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
They install some video cameras throughout the house. She chases the cameraman around the house with a knife because she thinks he stole her spade. And then she falls on the floor in a temper tantrum. So the cameraman, he's kind of afraid of her from the beginning because she chases him around the house with a knife.
Yeah.
And she then grabs a piece of glass and tries to slit her own throat. The doctors then increase her medication and send her home. I guess that's believable. I mean, that seems reasonable enough.
Even there, I don't know, that seemed pushing it a little bit. But definitely later, they keep sending her home and keep letting her be at home. And this is way past the point where a patient should be at home that's acting like that in that condition. And I think it was around day 41 where I have a note way past the point of home care, and yet they still were. Yeah,
well, at this point, I think people go home at this stage. This isn't beyond.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, but that was awfully violent and awfully dangerous.
Okay, well, I wasn't sold at this point because I've actually heard stories about Alzheimer's people chasing people with knives around the house, and it happens. We see in one scene that she paints dark shapes of a man in the woods. She's a painter. Soon she starts talking to someone that isn't there. She's convinced that there's some guy out in the yard, and then she starts nailing the windows shut. Again, Alzheimer's. It happens.
Yeah. Up to a point, it all seems very Alzheimer-y, explained by her losing her mind and her
That
memories.
night, Deborah gets out of bed and runs through the woods, stabbing the ground with her spade.
Why?
Well, because Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
She starts getting more violent and self-destructive, and the doctor tells us that this is not typical anymore of Alzheimer's patients. There may be some other problems involved as well. They're thinking like schizophrenia or, real mental issues.
Yeah, combination of things.
About this point, I mentioned that we've gotten past the point of home care.
Yeah.
There's a reason for nursing homes, and this is it.
Yeah.
They start to notice some things on the camera that shouldn't be there.
And then things start getting freaky to the point of beyond normal Alzheimer's, beyond any normal medical thing.
Well, the windows open by themselves. Deborah just gets up on the stove in the blink of an eye, and there's a whole series of paintings of the Shadow Man.
Neat shot. She's they're filming most
standing
of the
in front of the oven, and suddenly she's standing on the oven.
Yeah, and there's no time jump.
Yeah. How'd she get up there?
Yeah, just instantly.
And a whole series of the paintings with the Shadow Man coming closer and closer to the house.
Which is creepy, but, just creepy.
Oh, people hallucinate.
Yeah.
One night they find her naked in the attic working on an old switchboard. She used to be the town switchboard person.
Yeah.
They hear a demonic-sounding voice, and the switchboard explodes. The cameraman translates what she said into, "The eternal serpent will set you free. Your blood will feed the river."
It's French, isn't it?
That ain't right.
French?
I think so,
yeah. And her daughter saying she doesn't know French. And, well, she does now.
Yeah. She kept trying to call the number 337 on the switchboard, and they think that might be important.
A clue.
They look up who had phone extension 337, and it belonged to a pediatrician who killed 4 children 30 years ago. They were all cut with the symbol of the snake. The doctor disappeared after killing the 4 girls, but the ritual called for 5 girls. I'm not quite sure how they know this.
They looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't know why he didn't kill all 5. Deborah remembers the name and says, "He's not missing, he's dead." She then pukes up dirt and worms.
Yeah. Lots of it.
The neighbor Harris wants to get rid of the camera crew and becomes generally annoying. He denies that Deborah knew DeHarden is the doctor's name. Harris comes right over and shoots the videographer's van up. Harris is kind of a jerk.
Yeah, he's kind of losing it too, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon after Deborah tries to make off with a child from the hospital, she goes full demon-possessed. Sarah goes to see a priest for an exorcism. They go to see a professor of anthropology who explains that weak minds are vulnerable to other things coming in. He explains that he's seen a case like this with the mother of a dead boy, and they cured her by burning the boy's body. Deborah is eventually strapped to the bed continually until Harris releases her. He then tries to smother her with a pillow, but then a TV flies across the room and hits him.
He doesn't actually release her, though. No, he
Okay, it looked like he was about to.
In a moment of clarity, you hear her asking him to kill her. And he tries to. And the TV flies across the room and bashes him.
I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, she was still strapped down.
Okay.
Yeah, she was lucid for a minute and begged him to do it. Yeah.
There you go.
So and he tried.
And the big old TV just falls across the room and lands on top of him.
Yeah.
Harris is then dying in the hospital, and he explains that Sarah was going to be DeHarden's 5th victim, but Deborah buried him alive in the backyard.
And he helped.
Yeah, they all know
They did it together.
They did the whole Freddy Krueger thing. Yeah, kill the child molesters.
Yeah.
They go to dig up the body and find Deborah's spade way down in the hole. They think Deborah already dug it up and hid the body somewhere, knowing that the body is DeHarden's weak point. They then find the body in a burlap sack full of snakes. They have to burn the body.
That doesn't go very well.
The fire flares up and there's more screaming, but the body won't burn. Deborah rips her arms up, escaping from the bonds, and then grabs the little girl again and leaves the hospital. She bites the guard in the neck and poisons him. Okay.
Yeah, to get out of the hospital, he's blocking their exit, and
they mentioned that the guard is in anaphylactic shock.
Yeah, and it shows the security footage. She leaps on him and chomps him, and apparently some kind of venom or something.
Snakes.
Yeah, snakes.
They think she's headed to the mill to complete the ritual for DeHarden. They catch up to her and the girl in the woods. She spits acid venom on the cops and leaves again in the confusion. And this is like...
That takes one of the cops out of commission.
Yeah.
Leaves just one on the case.
Sarah creeps up behind Deborah with a syringe full of sedative, but when she spins around, it's not her anymore. She's got the big white face. It's really weird looking. They chase her some more and find Deborah swallowing the girl like a giant snake would. And this is the coolest scene in the movie.
They must have really done some searching to find an actress that could unhinge her jaw like that.
Yeah, her mouth like opens way up, and they go around the corner and they see the girl's head completely inside her mouth.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. Like a giant snake would swallowing a person whole.
Yeah.
They try...
But they get there in time to save the girl.
Yeah,
so,
maybe. They try burning the body in the mine, and it now works as expected. The bones burn.
Mm-hmm.
The last scene is of Carol and the little girl, a year later, fully healed from her cancer, and she gives the camera a creepy look.
And then it makes you wonder,
was she rescued?
Yeah,
we don't know.
There's
There's no indication one way or the other. It's just weird.
Just a hint of it, the possibility. Yeah.
Alzheimer's is a pretty sad and terrifying thing all by itself, but even the early parts where we meet Deborah and Susan, there's not much emotion shown here. Maybe it was because I knew something else was coming, but I had no attachment at all to these characters.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen these shows with, Alzheimer's patients. You always feel sad for them. You always feel emotional for them. I didn't care.
Well, she was really flat and disaffected already, I think, as a symptom of the disease. And
if they'd really gone for the whole tearjerker emotion, pull you in the beginning, this might have been a lot better, but...
Yeah, they didn't. And Sarah really had issues with how she was raised and some of the crap that Deborah did to her when she was a girl. Yeah. And so she's got, mixed feelings. So there wasn't, that emotional concern being displayed for her mother.
And there was no emotional concern from us either.
Yeah.
There are a ridiculous number of scenes where they're walking around with flashlights, but there's no reason they couldn't have just turned on the light switch. This includes a trip to the morgue and the hospital. The power was working fine there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of places where people scream over each other, which is always one of those things that gets to me. Somebody shut up and let the other person talk.
They need a talking stick.
Talking stick.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
You have the talking stick. You can talk.
There's some excellent surgical gore, such as a close-up of a spinal tap that got me going, and a rash that develops on Deborah's back. If you don't like snakes, and who does... There's some creepy stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, something else that was annoying. The cameras work perfectly. You get to see everybody talking, everybody running around, until somebody turns around the monster, until you can see a creature. And then it's... And you can't really see their faces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can blame it on the supernatural interfering with electronics, but it's cheap. It's cheap to keep from doing makeup, cheap from doing special effects. It takes away from the movie because every other scene in the movie is perfect until she turns around. You can get a good look at her face, and it's. I hate that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's a bad gimmick. I don't like it.
I still give it a 7.
I'm liking it less as we go.
Well, you're making me like it less, but yeah. Okay, 6.5.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to go serious 5 on that one.
Okay.
It had its good points, but it had its dumb, too.
Yeah.
Speaking of good points and dumb, Return of the Evil Dead, 1973.
Blind Dead.
Return of the Evil Dead is one title.
Blind Dead.
And it's also Return of the Blind Dead.
Depends on who you ask or what version you see.
I think it was released as Evil Dead, and the Sam Raimi films got big, and they decided it was very confusing.
So let's change it for U.S. audiences to make it Blind Dead.
And it's the sequel to Tombs of the Blind Dead, which
makes
was
sense
the right
anyway
name.
that they would want to call it the Blind Dead.
Yeah,
it does. They're still blind.
But I've heard plenty of people say they have seen Return of the Evil Dead, and it's the same thing. So, watch for it. Directed by Armando Diaz. Is there something after me? What is that? It's your Evil Dead hand?
It's the Blind Dead. They're coming after you.
Wow. Wow. Oh, I should run real slow and get away from that.
And scream.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, we're giving you, a little taste of what the movie was like. It had its moments.
Well, you've seen The Walking Dead zombies and the Night of the Living Dead. They're guys in costumes with makeup on their face. And, of course, animation, CGI, and some movies like World War Z. They're not real people, most of them. Most of them are just, computer generated.
Mm-hmm.
This was something different. Sometimes it was people in the shroud, and you could see them moving around, getting up off the floor and stuff. Other times, it was clearly puppets.
Well, and some of the shots were real people with puppet arms.
Mm-hmm.
like this.
And I think that's what makes this series of movies interesting, is the dead.
Mm-hmm.
They're rotten. They're more than skeletons, but not much more than skeletons.
And they're slow and creepy, and yeah.
Yeah, and that really is the high point of the first movie, is the dead creatures themselves.
Mm-hmm. I thought the second one was a bit better than the first one.
You did.
And I thought the third one was my favorite of all.
Haven't seen the fourth one yet.
Although we haven't officially seen the third one yet. We saw it last night. We're just not talking about it today. But yeah, I haven't seen the fourth one yet.
Okay. I'm going to go right down the list. First one is best, second is second best, third one is third best, and I can't comment on the fourth yet.
I'm the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll compare them all after we've done the fourth one.
Yeah.
Because neither of us have seen the fourth one yet.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by Armando de Osorio, written by him. Stars Tony Kendall, Fernando Sancho, and Esperanza Roy. 1 hour, 31 minutes.
As you can tell, it's not an American film.
Spanish.
Yeah.
The version we watched of all of these movies.
Or was it Portugal?
I think it's Spanish.
Okay. All right.
Spain, Spanish. And the versions we have watched of all of these movies so far have been dubbed. Not subtitled.
Right.
I don't know what's available, but we've got the dubbed ones.
Mm-hmm.
Hour and 31 minutes. We begin with a flashback to the evil Templars sacrificing a girl and drinking their blood. It's not a rehash. It's a difference. It's
a
filmed
different
differently.
Flashback.
Yeah.
In the first one,
it's the same scene but redone.
Yeah, the commoners got angry with them and hung them and left them out to hang, and the birds pecked their eyes out.
Right.
And that's why they have no eyes when they come back. Well, on this one, the angry people uprise and burn their eyes out and then burn them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
a subtle difference.
Yeah, so it's a difference of that.
Okay, so we see where the Templars came from. Credits roll.
Mm-hmm.
We jump now to the presents, where the kids are tormenting the local hunchback.
It's also at a point too. They as the one is dying, we'll be back. We'll get you. We'll kill you all.
We vow our revenge.
Our revenge. Well, why does it take them 500 years to do that?
Because they're slow.
Okay, they're slow. Yeah.
And this brings up another question here. In the original movie, it seemed like the dead got up because there were people in their monastery.
Mm-hmm.
There were people there, and they got up and got them.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be here. This is a forbidden place.
Yeah.
This one here, they have been asleep for 500 years,
mm-hmm.
and they come back this one
on
night
the anniversary.
for revenge.
Yeah, the 500. They've got a festival that's going on.
There's actually a little more to it than that I'll talk about in a minute, but yeah, they're... So it's kind of a sequel. It's kind of different. But they're related.
Yeah.
We jump to the present where the kids are tormenting the local hunchback. The mayor brings in Jack, an American fireworks specialist, to help them celebrate the anniversary of the victory over the Templars. Jack used to have a relationship with Vivian, the mayor's secretary. They have a long, drawn-out conversation and kissy fest that is observed by the hunchback. He's watching the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
The hunchback interrupts him and tells him about the legend of the Templars promised to return tonight. Oh, hey, don't stop kissing, but hey, those Templars are coming back tonight.
Yeah, tonight's the night.
I'm not creepy at all.
500 years. Yeah.
Later that night, the festival begins, and Jack's fireworks are a hit. Jack and Vivian dance while the mayor...
Yes?
Jack and Vivian dance while the mayor fumes at them. Meanwhile, up at the monastery, the headstones start to wobble. It's time to reuse some footage, since it's been a whole year since the first movie.
Yeah, they did. With us seeing them so close together,
it was real obvious for us.
Mm-hmm.
The hunchback is standing there watching the dead rise. In town, they burn effigies of the Templars as the fireworks blast. In the cemetery, the dead assemble on their horses. Juan and Monica are having an affair and don't want anyone to find out. The dead find their little getaway house, and people finding out about them is the least of their problems.
Mm-hmm.
Juan is killed instantly, but Monica grabs a dead horse and tries to ride away.
Anyone can ride a dead horse.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
She tells Mr. Matthews at the train station, who calls town, but no one answers the phone. Jack's getting beaten up by the mayor's goons, but they stop when the mayor gets a call about a problem at the train station. Jack and Vivian drive away from town, but come across Monica, who is in shock. They have to drive back to town to find a doctor. The mayor's goons see them too, and warn the mayor to evacuate the town. The mayor calls the governor in the middle of the night, but the governor doesn't believe him.
He just thinks they're all drunk and partying.
The dead get to town eventually, and they make a great entrance, cutting off all the exits from the town square.
Mm-hmm.
They stay on their horses, draw their swords, and advance on the partying crowd. Hundreds are killed.
Seems that way.
Some of the townspeople manage to escape.
Dozens, anyway.
There's not
a
as many bodies as there are dead people.
Yeah.
They
A lot of
didn't
them.
have enough extras.
Yeah.
Some of the townspeople manage to escape, and all the characters that we know about board a jeep and head out of town with the dead in pursuit. They get cornered and hole up in a big church where the hunchback is already hiding. Monica and the hunchback try to dig a tunnel in the cellar, while the mayor weasels his way into an escape plan that gets one of his men killed. He then tries the same escape plan with the dead man's daughter. He takes out this little 4-year-old girl with his hand over her eyes and pushes her out in the crowd. And she's like, Daddy,
crowd of monks.
Daddy. And of course, they all converge on her while he runs the other way.
Yeah, he's a bit of a turd.
Yeah.
But he gets his.
This time, the mayor gets what's coming to him, and things go just as badly for Monica and the hunchback. They get away, but do they?
Yeah.
And then there were 4. Howard decides that since they're all going to die anyway, that he can rape Vivian. Jack and Howard fight, and Howard gets impaled on a spear that just happened to be laying there in the front of the church. You ever been to a church with spears just laying all over the place?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Yeah. Dawn comes and goes, and the dead are still out there. Finally, they blindfold the child, and all 3 of them quietly walk through the crowd of dead.
Because they're blind, and they think if they're really, really quiet, they can sneak through.
The child peeks out from beneath the blindfold and screams, but the dead don't react. They've gone dormant in the daylight, and they all start slowly falling over. The 3 people walk off into the sunrise, happy ending, the end.
They stayed out past their bedtime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 versions of the film. We watched the shorter dubbed version, but the Spanish version has an additional 4 minutes of gore shots. We're told that in the longer version, Murdo the Hunchback sacrifices a girl to initiate the Templars' return. That's what they were waiting on.
Uh-huh.
We didn't see that.
We didn't see that.
It's supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm. That would explain it.
This one moves really fast, and the dead rise just a few minutes into the film. It did take a long time in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
There was just enough reused footage to be noticeable, but the dead have plenty of new tricks up their shrouds. The battle scenes go on and are only mildly entertaining, as it's mostly just shots of random people fighting the dead, not characters we know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the battle in the town went long.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
The drama between the mayor and Jack over Vivian is a little too melodramatic to even try to take seriously. The things that worked in the first film still work here, but I thought the story itself was a little weak. I thought it was below the first one.
I liked it better.
Okay.
Overall, liked it better. Yeah.
Recommend both. They're both good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Climax, Brides of Dracula.
Slightly higher for yeah, my Climax is slightly down, and my
Taking of Deborah Logan.
I give that one an up.
And Return of the Blind Dead is a
yeah.
If you're going to see one movie this week, Return of the Blind Dead,
or Taking of Deborah Logan.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Get ready for next week. Oh, first of all, we're going to start doing something a little different. October's coming up, and
Halloween season's
coming up. So we got a couple more weeks of our usual format, but when we get to October, we're going to be doing something different. And then we'll go back to the usual setup afterwards. But tune in next week where we'll give you more details about that. We have some interesting movies to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But next week, we'll be watching the Universal Studios' Invisible Man's Revenge from 1944, the final Invisible Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
Hammer horror classic, The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll from 1960.
Mm-hmm.
The new-ish movie, It Follows from 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And our international feature, The Ghost Galleon, Part 3 of The Blind Dead from 1974. I bet you can guess which international movie we watch in the following week. Part 4.
Part 4.
Get them all in there.
Yes.
Check out our Twitter feed at Horror Bulletin and find our group Horror Guys Podcast on Facebook. Check us out at the website, horrorguys.com, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
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 Now they got me.
We could make our own horror movie.
Not with these. See ya.